Mimulus guttatus, the seep monkey flower. So this is one of the ones that grows in riparian habitats, actually can grow directly in stream edges. And so yes, I have seen this in the wild. But it does, so it wants water, but it can actually be in an area that gets flooded and then go dry and then flooded and go dry. So it can be in a rain garden if you have one of those, but you'll probably have to water it if we have a dry period. You know, we don't get the rains as much. So next is Erythrium bulls mauve. This is, it needed a little drink. It's looking a little, it's flagging a bit from the wind. I think we're probably at, what, 2% humidity right now. My skin says so anyway. This actually looks fairly delicate, and it does right now, but in the ground, once it's going, it's actually a fairly tough customer. So this is good for a moderately drought-tolerant garden. And also, you just shear off the old flower spikes and can shear it back a little bit between flowering, and it'll live for a number of years. Once they get old enough, they start to get kind of punky, and they're, you know, again, I tell people all the time, when I'm designing, I go into gardens and people say proudly, I've had my lavender for 12 years, and I say, yes, it looks like it. Tear it out, start over. So they are perennials, but they're temporary perennials. And at some point, you're gonna need to tear them out and get a new one. Salvia chiapensis, this comes from sort of cloud forest type areas in Chiapas, Mexico. So this one actually appreciates a little bit of shade and definitely a little bit more water than some of the salvias, but definitely a hummingbird magnet if you grow this. And this is one of those that's, like many of the salvias, very easy to care for. Once it starts to look a little ratty, you can cut it back hard, water it, feed it a tiny bit, and it'll come back looking beautiful. It's a great color too. It's a great color to work with, this like hot magenta. This is Scedoxis punescens, the paintbrush lily. And there's a number of Scedoxis that are available out there. You usually see the albifloss, the smaller one. This one's a little bit less common. And it's kind of on the out right now. It's just going down, and the foliage is coming up for the early part of, for spring into summer, and then it'll go dormant. I think this goes dormant. Does this lose its foliage, or does it stay green?
It does, and then we think it's dead, and then it comes back. Yeah, it does, and then we think it's dead, and then it comes back.
Oh yeah, it loses its foliage in late summer, early fall, and you think it's dead, and then suddenly it's there, and it pops up again. So, camellia, and this is almost all over the older parts of Los Angeles, Pasadena, Hollywood, and everything, you find this particular camellia, this pink perfection. I grew up with it outside of my door. My grandmother had one. I'm in that house right now, so I have another pink perfection. And it's a tough customer when it's it gets its roots really deep. They're actually, a lot of the Camellia sinensis can be fairly drought tolerant. You don't have to baby them, just keep them from getting scorched in the sun, which can be difficult when your neighbor cuts down their trees. I like this one, but I'm not that fond of this sort of birthday cake icing pink color. That's a little bit much, but anyway. Thryptomene saxicola. I don't know this plant at all, but when I saw it, I was actually up here with Kathy Musial, and I said, is it Australian? She said, yes, it looks Australian. I think it's the accent. So it says it's a bushy shrub to 4 feet tall, and I would imagine this is April. Where are you? How drought tolerant? Moderately? Okay. Generally, a lot of these Aussie plants they're fairly drought tolerant. Although they're, if you go out to buy any of the Aussie plants, treat them like a California native and plant them in the fall and water them well when you first put them in. Then they'll get drought tolerant, but if you plant them in the heat and forget to water them, they're gone. Narcissus howera, this is one of the dwarf daffodils. And if you can get hold of these bulbs and get them in the right spot in your yard, these will actually, they will make colonies, and they're really quite nice. I was saying earlier that as a child I planted some of these. By the time my parents actually moved, the patch was probably 2 feet wide and so dense. It was beautiful, and nobody did anything to it. It just sort of ignored it. This Eucalyptus torquata, I think they sometimes, I've forgotten what there's a name for this, there's a common name for it. This is,
Coral gum.
yeah, coral gum, I think. This is one of the really beautiful eucalyptus. It's more, it has a little more elegance than some of the bigger ones. And definitely in bloom, this thing is just a showstopper. It's really quite lovely. I don't know, some of them have the regular eucalyptus smell, and some of them actually have a little bit of citrus, and it's a little more, it's almost more camphor-like. It's interesting. Anyway, and the last one is a twofer. It's a 2-for-1. We have, this is from Laura's garden. We have Morea villosa, which has decided to close up now, of course. They call them peacock lilies, and there's a whole bunch of different common names, but this is one of the Moreas, which are the bane of the existence of the Huntington. These were all through the cactus and succulent garden everywhere. I think this one may not have been this particular, not this one. Which one was it?
The Polystachya.
Polystachya, okay, so this is an invasive, okay. And then there's Claytonia in here. It's Claytonia profoliata, the miner's lettuce, which is really sweet and edible and a lovely plant. And pick it once you see it like this, because it's there and gone. If you miss it, you really miss it. You won't get it back. It only comes up and blooms, or comes up and blooms and then dies immediately. So anyway, thank you all for bringing in plants for the plant forum.